We often think of our bodies as this single, incredible machine, right? And it is. But it's built from trillions, literally trillions, of tiny living units. But here's a thought. What if they weren't just simple building blocks? What if each and every one of them was a world of its own?
Okay, I know, it sounds like a pretty wild idea, but honestly, it's probably the best way to really wrap your head around the microscopic world that's buzzing with life inside you. See, each one of your cells, it's like a tiny, bustling metropolis. So today, we're going to take a guided tour.
So, welcome to Cell City. By thinking about a cell this way, as a city, all those complex, intricate parts suddenly start to make a lot more sense. We're going to start our tour at the city limits. Then we'll make our way to City Hall, check out the factories, and of course, see the power plants that keep this whole operation humming.
Okay, so our first stop is right here at the city's perimeter. Now this isn't just a simple wall. Think of it more like a border control station with all these guarded gates. This is the cell membrane, and let me tell you, it is absolutely crucial for this little city's survival.
So you might be wondering, what is this border control even made of? Well, it's basically this thin, flexible envelope made of lipids, which are just fats, and proteins. And yeah, it might be incredibly thin, but don't let that fool you. It's ridiculously sophisticated.
The foundation of this entire wall is something called a lipid bilayer. And it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. Just picture a double-sided film where two layers of these fat molecules line up kind of back to back. And that simple structure, that's what creates the fundamental barrier between everything inside the cell and everything on the outside.
Okay, but here's the really cool part. This barrier pretty much builds itself. It all comes down to this sort of love-hate relationship with water. You've got these hydrophilic or water-loving heads that face the water on both the inside and the outside. But then you have these hydrophobic or water-hating tails. They all duck into the middle to get away from the water, and in doing so, they create this oily core that most water-soluble stuff just can't get through. Genius, right?
Of course, a city wall isn't much good without some gates, right? You got to get things in and out. That's where the proteins come in. And get this, they make up a whopping 55% of the membrane's entire mass. They act as these super selective, guarded channels and pores, deciding exactly what nutrients get in and what waste gets out. Some of these gates are just unbelievably busy, shuttling millions of molecules across the border every single second. The integral proteins are like the tunnels themselves, while the peripheral proteins act like the guards controlling the traffic.
All right, now that we're through border control, let's head to the very heart of the city's government. This is the command center. You can call it City Hall. This is the nucleus, and it's where all the big decisions are made.
And believe me, it is no exaggeration to call it the control center. I mean, every single thing this city does, every order, every action, it all originates right here.
So, how does it run the whole show? Well, it holds the master blueprints, the DNA. The genes are basically the instruction manuals for building every single protein. And those proteins are what determine everything the cell does. And get this is just mind-blowing. If you were to take all the DNA that's packed into this one tiny little city hall and stretch it all out, it would be 2 meters long. It's from right here that the nucleus sends out all the official memos, telling the city when to grow, when to make copies of itself, and yeah, even when it's time to shut everything down.
Okay, so with the orders sent out from City Hall, it's time for us to head over to the Industrial District. This is where we'll find the city's main manufacturing plant and its shipping department, all working together seamlessly to produce and deliver the goods.
So here we have the whole production line laid out. It starts with these little workers called ribosomes, which are sitting on the rough ER. They're the ones that assemble the new protein molecules. And man, do they work fast. They can build these incredibly complex machines in less than a minute. From there, the new proteins travel inside the ER to get processed. Then they get packed up into these little transport bubbles called vesicles, and they're off to the Golgi apparatus, which is basically the city's post office. The Golgi is where the final processing, packaging, and labeling happens, getting those proteins all ready for shipment.
Okay, but think about this for a second. None of what we've seen, not the border control, not City Hall, not these busy factories, none of it could run without energy, right? So let's go visit the city's power grid.
And I'm pretty sure you already know the classic nickname for this part of our tour, the mitochondria. We all learned it in school, right? And there's a very good reason it's so famous.
It's because they produce, wait for it, over 95% of the cell's energy. Let that sink in.
They aren't just a power source, they are the power source. And in cells that need a crazy amount of energy, like your heart muscle cells, these little power plants can take up almost half the entire city's volume. Without them, this whole city would just grind to a halt, almost instantly.
So how do they pull it off? Well, mitochondria take in nutrients from food and convert their energy into a really special molecule called ATP. The best way to think of ATP is as the city's universal energy currency. Every other part of the cell has to spend ATP to get its job done, whether that's building new proteins or transporting goods across the membrane.
All right, for our final stop on the tour, let's take a look at the crews that work behind the scenes. You know, the ones that maintain the city's structure and keep everything clean. These guys are truly the unsung heroes of Cell City.
So let's break down their jobs. First up, you've got the cytoskeleton. This is like the city's steel framework and its road network, all rolled into one. It's what gives the cell its physical shape, and it provides these tracks for all the other city parts to move along. Then you have the lysosomes. These guys are the sanitation and recycling crew. They're basically little sacks filled with digestive enzymes, and their job is to break down old, damaged parts, bits of food, or even unwanted invaders like bacteria.
So we've seen it all, right? The border, the government, the factories, the power plants, all inside a single microscopic city. And that just brings us to one final huge thought. If your body is made of trillions of these incredibly complex, self-sufficient cities, and they're all working together in harmony, what does that make you? A nation? A world? A whole universe? It's really something to think about, isn't it?